Welcome to another episode of The Cinephiles, the Carol Evans Show, where three movie lovers get together and talk all the new films that we think you should be seeing and have a little bit of banter. My name is Chris Arabsky, and I am a movie lover.
My name is Brian Eggert, and I am a movie critic.
And my name is Jamie Rogers, and I am a movie snob, according to Chris.
Accurate. How do you define that? I don't even...
You're the one that called me that, so you
I think
define
you
it.
have, yeah, it's a put down, but guys,
But with
we
love.
critique each other, and that means love. So
Exactly.
that's what we mean. I think you're one of the smartest movie brains, if not the smartest movie brain I've ever met.
You've
And I'm
met
sitting
Brian.
next to International Film Critic of the Year. International Film Critic. National Film Critic?
National.
Excuse me. Just the United
I was
domestic.
like, what?
He's a
upgraded?
domestic film critic of the year. All right, so each episode we want to get right to the films that we think you should be seeing, some of the new releases out there, tell you a little bit about it and give it a rating. We're going to start with, this is an Apple TV
Plus.
product,
Yep.
right? Plus, Deaf President Now. Let's take a look.
There's a firestorm this evening at Gallaudet University.
The world's only deaf university.
The time was now to light a match.
All right, Jamie, tell us about this one.
So this is a documentary by Niall DeMarco and Davis Guggenheim. It is focused on the 1988 protests at Gallaudet University, which is the only deaf university in the world. The premise is that the Board of Trustees was nominating a new president for the university. There were 3 candidates. 2 of them were deaf. 1 of them was a hearing individual. The hearing individual is the one that the board chose, and that upset all of the students, rightfully so. It's a deaf university. They wanted someone to lead the university who had knowledge,
Yeah.
understanding, respect for the deaf community.
What'd you think of it?
I saw this at Sundance originally, and I cried my eyes out. And then I watched it again this week for this, and I cried my eyes out. What I found really interesting when I was thinking about it and looking just fun facts up about this film is that Notre Dame is a Catholic university, founded in 1842. It's always had a priest leading its university. Howard University, the university founded to give Black Americans an education and an equal right to education, founded in 1867. It took them 59 years to have a Black president at their university. Gallaudet was founded in 1857. It took them 124 years and a protest to get them a deaf president to represent their university.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What did you score it?
I think this is a must-see. If you look on my Letterboxd, I wrote after I watched it at Sundance that I think this needs to be shown in every classroom. I think it needs to be taught. I think everybody needs to watch this movie. I didn't know anything about this story going into it, which I was surprised at after watching it. I was like, how did I not know this? We know all about the Civil Rights Act, all of these other major events that happen in history. People are learning about George Floyd and the things that happened recently in schools. Why do we not know about this?
Interesting. Well, that's what films can do, right?
Yeah.
Did you have the same reaction?
I did. I had a few criticisms of it, nothing major, but I thought this was a fascinating story about the importance of protests and when you don't feel represented by someone who's appointed over you, you get out in the streets and you protest. I think that's a very vital message right now. I thought it had a great kind of David and Goliath story. There's the villain of this story is Janet Bassett Spillman, who's this very sort of prim and proper head of the Board of Trustees who appointed the hearing
Abled,
president.
yeah.
And she is a very kind of detestable character. So you're definitely on the side of the protesters. I will say that as a fan of documentaries, I think that there's kind of a milquetoast quality to a lot of documentaries. It's always talking head interviews, it's archival footage, archival interviews. That I think is where the meat is. These filmmakers kind of go off and they do some very artistic or poetic flourishes that I don't think add much and sort of distracted from me and sort of blended fiction and nonfiction in a way that I didn't enjoy.
What do you mean by poetic flourishes?
So, for instance, they'll just cut away to a drum beating, and that drum is lit very dramatically.
Oh, I see.
Or, it's just these moments that the filmmakers are creating to accent a point that one of the interviewees is making.
They make it abstract, a little different.
Right, and you can do that. I think other documentarians have done that. Werner Herzog has this whole thing called ecstatic truth, where he finds truth in poetry, and that's his version of a documentary. So I'm not saying that idea is generally bad. I just think maybe in this documentary, those moments seemed out of place. But otherwise, I completely agree. Yeah, you should definitely see it.
Must see?
See it.
See it.
Yeah.
So that's a B.
That's a B+. B+. Yeah.
You loved it.
I loved it, and I don't want to discredit anything that Brian is saying, because obviously he has reasons to feel the way he feels, but I think that those dramatic elements that Brian is highlighting actually adds to the story of, we are hearing people listening to a perspective of a deaf person, and they are saying that they feel vibrations, which is why the drum is there. The sound cuts off in certain instances to make it more dramatic in a way of oh, we don't understand how this works. Now I can kind of empathize with what they're saying, especially when, like you said, Miss Spielman is the villain in this story. Yeah. And she said, deaf people are not ready to function in a hearing world. And then when she was asked about it, she said, oh, I didn't say that. That was misinterpreted.
That brings up an interesting point, actually, because in the documentary, they say that she says that. And there's no video evidence of that. She doesn't actually say that on video. That's one of those things where all these witnesses attest that she said this, but then we don't have video of it. And it was supposed to be right at that moment where video is on her, and it just cut away. So I wanted an explanation as to why that wasn't caught on video. Just little moments like that sort of nagged at me.
You wanted more journalism there.
Sure, yeah.
All right, we're moving on. The next film is also on Apple TV+. This one's called The Fountain of Youth.
Luke! What are you doing?
It's like Dad said, the reward is in the journey.
Not when the journey ends in jail.
Oh, I'm not going to jail.
How do you know that?
Because I've done this. What? And it never ends in jail.
Sometimes it ends in jail.
Please.
All right, what do you think,
So, fun idea, right? A Guy Ritchie movie doing kind of like an Indiana Jones, Tomb Raider, Uncharted type thing. It's written by James Vanderbilt, who wrote Zodiac. A lot of potential here, but it's like someone just came and sucked the soul out of this thing. It's an empty husk of a movie. There's nothing to it. The dialogue is so banal. It's a story about John Krasinski and his sister, played by Natalie Portman, who are on the search for the Fountain of Youth, and it's globe hopping around the world, and there's a wealthy benefactor who's supporting them, and some bad guys who are trying to get the Fountain of Youth for the wrong reasons, and blah blah blah. Who cares? None of it was. If I didn't have to talk about this today, I would have shut it off.
Oh wow!
It was so bad. The dialogue is so trite. There's nothing to these characters. I was so bored, and you can take a formula like that and do something great with it, and it can be like, oh, I've seen this before, but it can be done well. But Guy Ritchie is just going through the motions here. And what's so shameful is that it's this had to have cost over $200 million, I would bet. And there's no life to it at all. So God. You have that budget, and you can't, make sure that your script is better than this one. It's awful.
Well, you should tell me how you really feel off camera.
Well, I don't know if Guy Ritchie has just been working so hard the last few years and turning out things that are good that he just dialed it in to get a paycheck. But it, like you said, it's literally they thought of a premise and then whispered it at the movie, and it's not there.
You agree with him on this?
Yeah, it's kind of there. There's potential. It sucks.
All right, so
no
let's
offense.
not waste any more time talking about it. Your rating?
Absolutely skip it.
Your rating?
I mean, you could try it, but you're going to be disappointed. So.
All right, and I'm sure it'll still make $100 million in the box office, right?
Not even. It's Apple TV Plus, so it's not even going to the theater.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Next movie. We'll just erase that Men in Black style from my memory. Jane Austen, Wreck My Life. This is in theaters now. It's a Sony Pictures classic.
Welcome to the Jane Austen residency.
And we're delighted to count amongst us this year a new recruit.
Welcome. Welcome. We hope you will be inspired, and we look forward to reading your work.
I believe that some books become part of our lives because they reveal to us our true nature.
So this is kind of a rom-com, kind of not a rom-com. It is Laura Piani's directorial debut. I think it's a really good directorial debut. It's kind of a period piece, kind of a modern drama. There's a love triangle in it. There's a story of an independent woman trying to find herself in it. She's experienced trauma, all of these things.
Why did Jane Austen ruin her life?
Well, it's because she works in a bookstore. She loves books. She loves Jane Austen. Jane Austen is her favorite author, and she sees herself as, I think, a character from Mansfield Park. She kind of looks at the world through the eyes of Jane Austen, and she doesn't really see herself as like a love interest necessarily. I was really excited at the idea that maybe she would love herself at the end, not end up with either of the men suitors, like just find love in life and kind of break out of her pattern of being very reserved and nervous about living. And it didn't end that way. It's fine. I enjoyed it. I like this sort of thing. I don't know that it's for everyone, but if you like this sort of story, Jane Austen, period pieces, love stories, I think it's okay. I think you'd like it.
All right.
I really love this movie, actually. I'm a big Jane Austen fan, and I can see Piani taking the Jane Austen structure and kind of all the tropes that she uses, and then just applying it through a modern lens. And at the same time, she's sort of looking at romance itself as a work of fiction and validating it as art. A lot of people, I think, poo-poo romance as trivial, and she's looking at not only Jane Austen but her own film as like these are genuine things that we all deal with, and Jane Austen dealt with it at a time when no one was really dealing with it, and I'm not only going to embrace Jane Austen's like story structure, and that, you know, if you've read Persuasion or Pride and Prejudice, you kind of know how this is going to end up. She's caught between two lovers, and one is right for her, one isn't, and then she's also adding in like modern romance, like sexting, and what is it like if two people, you know, fall for each other, they have sex and there's no chemistry in the bedroom. Those are things that obviously Jane Austen wasn't going to deal with in her time, but had she been working now, she would have dealt with that.
That's interesting.
And I think it's a very mature romantic movie that at the end, yes, it doesn't end in maybe a modern way that would have been more appropriate for I don't know, a contemporary lens or a feminist lens, and I would have liked that ending too, actually, as you said that. But I also think that this is like her embracing Jane Austen in a way that cherishes what she did in Piani's own voice.
Rating.
See it.
All right. Settle on that one. Thank you, guys.
Up next, we revisit the Mission Impossible franchise, and your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to try not to judge Christopher on his questionable opinions. Stay with us.
The latest Mission Impossible film is in theaters right now, but we wanted to debate how it stacks up to the rest of the films in the franchise.
But before we get into that, I have to tell Brian a story, you guys a story, and make fun of Chris. So our last episode, he wholeheartedly said this.
Dead Reckoning is my favorite Mission Impossible movie.
Which is an insane take to me.
Okay.
No offense.
It is my favorite Mission Impossible movie. I'm a little insane.
He said this with his full chest.
What's the out cue? I'm a little insane.
Exactly. And then the next day, I saw Chris and he went, yeah, so you know how I said that was my favorite yesterday? I rewatched it last night and it's not.
Yeah. So what?
Fair,
yeah.
fair.
I don't know if you have the list, Dan, or not. But my list went Dead Reckoning as my favorite, followed by Fallout, Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, MI3, MI2. Because I haven't seen the brand new one yet. But I went and put on Dead Reckoning again, and I was like, "Oh, I've made a great error." And here's why.
And I let everyone know.
I still think it's the best villain. I think it's the most timely and frankly terrifying, realistic villain, which is Ultron, right, or whatever. It's like AI has taken over. It is sentient and it can end the world, which is we're getting close. But the dialogue is so formulaic and poor. Its only purpose in the first quarter of the movie is to get you to understand the plot. And it's 16 different people finishing their own sentences, which nobody does. Nobody speaks like this. There's no unit, there's no group of people that starts a sentence and then goes around the table to finish it. The only purpose of the dialogue is to serve you the plot, which looks like dialogue. So I changed that. I don't know where it sits now, but Fallout has moved up and risen to my favorite and my movie.
Wonderful.
What about you?
So I have the first Mission Impossible listed as my favorite. I think that's just, it's the original. It had a killer cast, and I don't know any movie that, at least at the time, had, for lack of a better phrase, the balls to kill off such notable people within the
Emilio
first 5 minutes.
Estevez
Yeah.
gets one right to the eye in the elevator.
Just done. And those are kind of the people that you came to watch. Other than Scream, what movie is doing that?
Well, remember when Steven Seagal got killed in that one film, right? The
Executive decision?
Yeah, killed him by. I go, what did I come here for? Anyway.
The first one's also my number one.
Nice.
And
what
I love about it is in the opening credits, you see all of those characters die. They show you that they're going to die. And they show you how they're going to die, and they're you see Emilio Estevez, riding up through the elevator. This is all before the movie starts, and Brian De Palma is so confident in the kind of sleight of hand movie making that he's got. He's like, I can show you these people, and they're going to die, and you're not even going to know.
Exactly.
That's so, as you said, ballsy. Yeah.
And so then my other 2 to 8, MI5 Rogue Nation, MI6 Fallout, MI4 Ghost Protocol, MI3. Then Dead Reckoning, Final Reckoning, and I put MI2 at the last spot. I switched that.
Everybody hates MI2.
It's got its defenders, but I am not one of them.
Who defends MI2?
There are weird segments of the internet.
The Last Samurai put into. He got the hair still from the same time.
He does.
Yeah. Anyway, what's your list?
My top is number 1. I think it's just brilliant. There's no, it doesn't rely on guns or that kind of action. It's a movie that relies on silence. It's the most Hitchcockian of them. It was very much, inspired by Hitchcockian sequences. 2 is Fallout. I think of the kind of the modern era that is the most exciting and has some of the best stunts. A very sharp script. And then the next 3 I think are all kind of interchangeable depending on the day. Rogue Nation I think has maybe the smartest script of the new versions. I think that 3 has the best villain. I think Philip Seymour Hoffman
so good.
is so terrifying. And they give him an emotional underpinning in that movie.
Exactly. There's actually a reason why he wants to do this thing.
And it plays with this idea of the MacGuffin, which is a Hitchcockian trope where they're all after something. And usually whatever that thing is doesn't really matter. And this one, you really never find out what the rabbit's foot is throughout the entire movie, which is great.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he was masterful in that.
It's such a brilliant idea. Ghost Protocol is next. I think that has some of the greatest stunts, but I also think it has the weakest villain. I just don't care about the villain in that one. Mm-hmm. And then Dead Reckoning, which is a huge disappointment for me. Final Reckoning, which is even bigger disappointment, I think. And then 2, which is maybe after the heights of 1, was maybe one of my all-time biggest disappointments in the theater. I walked out of that. My wife and I walked out of that, and we were just like, "What did we just see?
Why did we spend money on this?"
Right. And we were so
Why was
deflated.
it so bad though? It's like his backstory and love story that you have no clue what's going on. His wife and the torture and
it's so self-serious. It's absolutely joyless. I think the music is terrible. I know some people love Limp Bizkit. I am not a Limp Bizkit fan. Sorry.
Hot dog flavored water.
Sorry. Yeah. It's so I don't like John Woo.
Was that John Woo?
It was.
Yeah. So it's like this action. It's trying to be John Wick. Earlier,
like John Woo was great at the start of his career, but his Hollywood stuff is rough. Too many masks, too many doves, too many motorcycles.
Too many doves.
Too many motorcycles.
There were a lot of doves.
Yeah.
When doves cry.
I feel like I think it's really insightful that most of ours have the Christopher McQuarrie 4, 5, 6 up at the top.
Yeah.
But then I find it ironic that 7 and 8 are just down at the bottom.
I think
swimming
they
around.
matured. I didn't like 1 as much because I remember watching it for the first time and I couldn't quite understand the plot perfectly. I had to watch it a few times to follow the Job sequence and the what's going on.
Yeah.
The ending's fantastic. The beginning's good. There are a lot of flashbacks, though, to try and drag the viewer along as you're discovering what's happening to Ethan. But I'll tell you what, that scene where he drops down at Langley to steal the
knock list.
The knock list
Yeah.
that's like Hollywood, a masterpiece scene.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way he designed that movie was he came up with the sequences first and then they wrote around it.
Makes
And
sense.
surprisingly, it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like a movie that's propelled by action first. It all feels very tight. Yeah, I absolutely love that movie.
Did you have a fun fact that you wanted to talk about?
I do have a fun fact. So I don't know if anyone watched the 6 o'clock newscast. I think it was last Thursday. But Kent Erdahl did a story that was a continuation of one that I believe Boyd did in 2016. There's a Minnesota Aviation Hall of Famer named Ray Johnson, who used to own the red biplane from Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning.
Cool.
Or The Final Reckoning, excuse me.
Well,
and we have some sound from both his daughter and him from Kent's story.
Let's take a look.
We've done stunts with my dad, we've done the loops, but we've never been outside the aircraft, hanging from the wing, going through cliffs.
What he does, in the movies is kind of one of a kind. I kiddingly tell people they asked me to do the flying, but I said they didn't want to pay me enough, so I don't do it then, so yeah.
I just think he is the cutest human in the entire world. But I found it really interesting that Ray sold his plane in 2020. I just dropped my notebook. And he didn't know that he was selling it to Paramount until he signed the papers. And he only sold it because he still flies at, I think it's 81 years old. But he couldn't get in and out of that particular plane, so that's why he sold it.
Interesting. And it ends up in the film.
Yep.
Wow. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, coming up, we're trading the IMF for the CIA as we discuss our thoughts on a classic, North by Northwest. Welcome back. Last episode, Brian handed out our very first Cinegift. Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah.
Cinegift. Sort of like a movie club, if you will. One of us will give a recommendation for all of us to watch as homework, and then we'll talk about it in the third block of the show. And your movie was?
North by Northwest by Alfred Hitchcock.
Why'd you give it to us?
So I think this ties into Mission Impossible really well. Alfred Hitchcock made a lot of what were called wrong man thrillers, starting in the 1930s. Movies like The 39 Steps or Saboteur, a movie literally called The Wrong Man, where someone's accused of crime, they're on the run, they have to find out who's behind it, and they get in a bunch of dicey situations. That's exactly what happens in North by Northwest, and that's exactly what happens in a lot of Mission Impossible movies. Ethan Hunt is constantly being blamed for things he didn't do and having to prove himself innocent.
Ghost Protocol.
Absolutely. I mean, even the first one, he steals the knock list because he's been accused of stealing the knock list. Yep. So not only that trope, but the idea of these sequences, these elaborate sequences, such as the crop duster sequence or the stabbing at the UN, or which is such a great moment and shocking moment. The Statue of, or not Statue of Liberty,
Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore. Oh my gosh, where am I?
Not in South Dakota.
Not in South Dakota. So all these sequences are what he's most interested in, Hitchcock, and they're what Brian De Palma was most interested in. So I think that it's kind of like a template for
an homage.
The current Mission Impossible movies. Not only that, but it's just like shot in 3-strip Technicolor. It is beautifully filmed. Cary Grant's never been more charming. The dialogue is amazing. Now, both of you had seen
I'd
this
never
before?
seen it. I had never seen North by Northwest before. And I didn't know
pretty sure I
Hitchcock
hadn't
directed
either.
it. What'd you think?
I loved it. For a film that's a little bit older, and I'm 31, almost 32 years old, I've grown up with a specific type of action movie.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about this one, just because it's an older movie, but Hitchcock is Hitchcock, and of course I loved it. first saw The Birds when I was like 11. I'm still terrified.
Yeah.
So
Ravens
I'm not
can
surprised that I
all
love
go
this
to
one.
hell. Ravens and robins can stay away from me. I actually have swallows under my deck that will dive bomb me. And I'm like, I almost want to get a racquetball racket, but I would never do that to the poor swallows.
You better not. Anyway.
I thought it was one of the best movies I've ever seen. I mean, not like top 3, but like top 20.
Yeah.
First of all, I studied Hitchcock a little bit in college, which is why I'm kind of freaking out that I'd never seen this movie. We studied more of his horror films. This movie was honestly a romance film.
Yeah.
I thought that the chemistry between Eve and Grant's character when they first meet on a train is some of the greatest, what would you call it? Chemistry, lust, and like romantic connection that I've ever seen on film. It was fantastic. The script was, you couldn't guess it. It was quick, it was witty, it's real. And to you, I thought it was a beautiful film. Like, you won't find directing that looks like this today.
Right.
The wide shots are all made almost for the still camera as opposed to the movie camera. They're that beautiful. You could take almost any shot in that entire film and make it into a big piece of art.
Absolutely.
It's stunning. And to your point, the sequence where he's dropped off in the middle of nowhere and cars come by one at a time, and Hitchcock takes his time, and you're like, oh, is it that the car? No. And then another car goes by, oh, no, that's not it either. And you're left wondering, as the character's left wondering, and he lets it all steam. He turns the coffee pot on, and you gotta let it brew. And it works. I found myself having a panic attack midway through, which is why I didn't finish.
Yeah.
Just kidding, I have children, so I got full disclosure, I got 7/8 of the way in and I had to stop. So I really actually don't know the ending, which I guessed, and I might be wrong.
The ending is iconic. I don't want to spoil it for you, but it's
once you see the ending, you're going to understand why a lot of Bond, Reacher, even Fast and the Furious type movies end the way that they do.
There was even a part in the score where I heard the notes. Hum, 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 hum. And I don't think it was on purpose, but I heard it. And I go, Albert Broccoli, what did you do there? Did you steal that? So this is pre-Bond, right?
It's pre-Bond, but the people who are making Bond, they wanted Cary Grant to be James Bond. He is kind of the template for James Bond.
So
in this
Bondy.
movie. Yeah.
He's charming, he's smart, he's witty, he's dangerous, all of it.
Yeah. And you know, we were talking before, and you had mentioned that he's kind of like George Clooney.
He gave me Clooney vibes.
He's wearing, George Clooney almost wears the exact same suit aside from the red lining in Out of Sight.
There you go.
This is considered by many in Hollywood to be like the suit, like the perfect suit. The way that Cary Grant wears it is just, I don't know, like he's
Cary Grant.
He's so he's so attractive in this suit.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. Yeah.
And he even gets literally crop dusted by a crop dusting plane, and he comes off and he's just like, we're good. Hey, Porter, can you clean this in 20 minutes? Okay. Sorry, he's not Rodney Dangerfield. You have the next Cinegifts. Thank you very much, by the way. That is exactly what we intended to give these homework assignments out, and we hope that you take them and do it too, and you can chat with us, and you can reach out to us on social media, and we'll bring your comments into play as well.
Absolutely.
What's the next one?
I did not stick on theme. I was just thinking, okay, what is something that maybe at least one of you hasn't seen, and what has brought me emotion, and I've watched it multiple times because I feel, like you said, you want something that makes you feel a visceral reaction, and that is an anime film called A Silent Voice.
Oh.
And I won't say anything else. I will just assign that to you and do with that what you will.
Maybe it's on the Deaf President Avenue. Is that what triggered it?
I don't know.
All right, well, sounds like it. All right, I'm excited to watch it. Hey, you want to pitch your website?
Yeah, check me out at deepfocusreview.com, or you can find my reviews on Rotten Tomatoes as well.
Thanks for joining us in the training ground of The Matrix, where we can pull up guns, movies, songs, anything we want, even the lady in the red dress, or in this case,
or
the red
shirt.
You've been watching The Cinephiles. Comment, like, smash the like button.
Smash that like button.
Don't break it, though.
2010 YouTube.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.